Welcome back. Thanks to the 4 people that weren't bored shitless by my first video, I'm back with something new. When I first bought my MX-5, I worked out fairly quickly there were a few things I didn't like, and the first one was the exhaust, and the exhaust note, or kind of lack thereof. Like a lot of modern OEM exhausts, the MD factory exhaust doesn't really give you a good sense of the car. It doesn't have a lot of depth, it doesn't have a lot of soul. I think the easiest word to describe it is soul, especially not being any sort of engineer. I couldn't tell you exactly what goes into making an exhaust sound good, but the factory one lacks that bit of pizzazz. So the search was on for something a little bit more. The first place I looked, thanks to someone in the MX-5 club I'm a part of, was BBR. Now BBR is a UK company. They do all sorts of tuning for MX-5s. You've probably heard of things like the Super 220 and all the sort of tuning packages that they can do for any model of MX-5. But I looked specifically at their exhausts, the Grand Touring exhaust and the Super Sport exhaust. But dealing with BBR was really difficult. They didn't respond to emails, you had to call them, and I thought, hey, okay, fair enough. So I made the effort one night, you know, New Zealand to UK time, polar opposites, other side of the world. So I made the effort late one night to actually ring BBR and say to them, hey, I'm really interested in one of your exhaust systems. I live in New Zealand, can you give me a little bit of an idea of how much it would be to ship, and you know, what system I might want. And it was decided eventually that I'd probably want the Super Sport system because I'd do everything from the engine back to the actual back box of the car. And the guy on the phone said, I'll get back to you with some shipping quotes. Now I waited weeks for this guy to get back to me with shipping quotes, and it never happened. I'd also worked out that a full exhaust system from BBR was going to cost me, you know, north of 4,000 New Zealand dollars once it got into the country. I actually worked out that I didn't want more power. I'm quite happy with the power this car has. I didn't want more power. What I want is just a bit more soul. What the MD probably should have had from day one. I wanted that. I wanted an OEM plus sort of sound. Don't do the whole exhaust system, just fit a new back box. Just fit literally the last part of the exhaust from the back of the car out. So I ended up finding the HKS Legamax Premium. Now landing the Premium in New Zealand was A, cheaper, and B, easier than getting a BBR exhaust out of the UK or something like a Goodwin exhaust out of America. All it required was the help of a friend who has an account on a service called Buyee in Japan, found the right model code, he ordered it to his place of business, and I got the whole thing landed in New Zealand for about 1,000 New Zealand dollars. Immediately, I loved it. It very much is an OEM plus sort of noise. If you want a raging, loud, motorsporty exhaust for your MX-5, this is probably not the one for you. It's throatier than the factory exhaust, up to about 3,000–4,000 RPM. Beyond that, it starts with a little rasp and a little naughtiness. It's kind of 4-cylinder Alfa Romeo territory, and I absolutely adore that. That's what I wanted. I wanted something that was just that little bit naughtier, that little bit more playful than what Mazda fitted from the factory, and I got it in spades. The tips are like a gloss black. They're a little bit annoying to keep clean, but they look good. And it actually is smaller and nicer looking than the Mazda back box from the back of the car. If you're at the back of the car looking quite low, you don't have this big built-in exhaust chamber. It's actually quite small. See what I mean? That little rasp, love it. So what I'm going to do is put a GoPro on my head. You're welcome. I'm gonna look like such a and I'm gonna go for a drive, and I'm gonna do some through town, 30 mile an hour, 50 kilometre an hour, you know, speed. Then I'm gonna go on the open road and give it a little bit, go through some twisties, do some, hopefully some rev match downshifts. So I hope you enjoy the clips coming up. and it gives you an idea of what this exhaust is like and whether it might suit your MX-5. Now we're out on the open road, I can tell you that as I was putting the GoPro on my head in the petrol station, 14 different people pissed themselves laughing at me. I've just caught a look at myself in the rear view mirror and it is disgraceful. These rev matches, listen to this. You always got to wave at the MX-5s, right? I hope that video's been helpful. I love this exhaust, and just going for a drive just then reminded me, like, every time you kick it above about 4,000 RPM, just puts a big smile on your face, just makes you have a grin, which is what this car's all about, right? So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Back with more very soon. Let me get this f***ing GoPro off my head. I look like an idiot.